All right, so for the test, make sure you know everything from the quiz. So you need to know your compounded interest, and when it's compounded continuously, you have a different formula. So just make sure you know your formulas. Know the graphs for exponential and log functions, and then the new stuff was expanding and condensing and solving logs. So just remember that logs and exponential functions are inverses. So if you have x in the exponent, you're going to take the log to cancel it out. And then e and ln go together too. And then also, always check your solutions. Check for extraneous solutions. You cannot take the log or ln of a negative number. You have to check. So let's do a few examples. We'll start with 4. So here, the a is being squared and the b. So we have log of a squared times b squared. When I'm multiplying, how would I break it apart? Log a squared plus log b squared. And then we take the exponents and move it in front as coefficients. So 2 log of a plus 2 log of b. This would be our answer. Right, number 7, we have multiple logs, so we need to condense it down to 1. So when I'm adding, what goes with addition? Multiplying. So move any coefficients that I have up above the term that they're attached to, so it becomes 6z to the 6th power, and then we combine all of our logs with multiplying. So it condenses down just to a single log, so log base 6 stays the same, and then I multiply everything that I'm taking the log of because we're adding it all together. So x times y times z to the 6th power. Any questions there? Let's look at 10. 10 we're dividing. What goes with division? Subtraction. So every time I break it apart, it needs its own log, and we're going to subtract. So log base 7 of 2 to the 3rd power minus log base 7 of 5 squared. What do I do with the exponents? What do I do with the exponents? Put them in front of the log that they're attached to. So 3 log base 7 of 2 minus 2 log base 7 of 5. All right, so number 12, since the whole thing's raised to the 4th power, I'm going to distribute that to both of them, just like what we did in number 4. So log base 4 of 12 to the 4th power times 7 squared to the 4th power. What do we do when we have a power raised to a power? Multiply. So it becomes 7 to the 8th power. Log base 4 of 12 to the 4th power times 7 to the 8th power. Now we're multiplying here. So what do we do with multiplication? How do we split them up? Add. So log base 4 of 12 to the 4th power. Every time we break it apart and expand it, each one gets its own log. So plus log base 4 of 7 to the 8th power. And then we take the exponents and move it to the front. So 4 log base 4 of 12 plus 8 log base 4 of 7. All right, let's do 13. So when we're solving our logs, we need to get the exponent part all by itself. What would we move first here? Add the 14. So 3e to the power of x is equal to 25. Then what would we do? Divide by 3. So e to the power of x is equal to 25 divided by 3. So this is 8.33. I'm going to keep it in the calculator just so I can keep all the digits with it. What would I do next? Take the ln of both sides, because the ln cancels out the e. So we have x is equal to the ln of 8.333. So I'm going to take the ln of that, and we get 2.12026. Let's do 14. What should we do first for 14? Move the 6. So I'm going to add 6 to the other side. So we have the ln of 3x is equal to 6. Then what? So we have an ln. What cancels out with ln? E. So I make the big base e on both sides. So it cancels out with the ln. We have 3x is equal to e to the power of 6. So I'm going to put e to the power of 6 in my calculator. So we got 3x is equal to 403.428. It keeps going, but we're going to leave it in the calculator. What's the last step? And divide by 3. So 134.47626. All right, 16. So our log's already isolated. How do I get rid of the log? What's our base going to be? 3. So since 3 is the base of the log, we make the big base 3. So it cancels out. So we have 2x plus 1 is equal to 3 squared, which is 9. So 2x plus 1 equals 9. What would we do next? Move the 1 over. So 2x is equal to 8 and divide by 2. So x is equal to 4. All right, 17. So we can't cancel out the logs when we have 2 of them, but how do we condense it down to just 1 log or 1 ln? Awesome. We're subtracting, so that means we divide. So the ln of x over 3 is equal to 4. Now how do I cancel out the ln? Make the big base e. So it cancels out with the ln. We have x over 3 is equal to e to the 4th power. We're going to put e to the 4th power in our calculator. So x over 3 is equal to 54.598. It keeps going. What's the last step? Multiply by 3. So it cancels out with the 3 on the left side, and then we just multiply 54 times 3. We get 163.79445. All right, let's do 20. What should we do for 20? If x is in the exponent, how do we get it out of the exponent? What's the opposite of exponents? Logs. So we take the log. What's the base of our log going to be? 3. Log base 3 on both sides. So it cancels out. Log base 3 of 3 cancels. So we're just left with x is equal to log base 3 of 500. Tomas, how would I put this in the calculator? Maya. Log of 500 over log of 3. Remember, the base goes on the bottom. So in the calculator, we put log of 500, close the parentheses, and divide it by log of 3. So x is equal to 5.657. Any other questions you want to see from this page? Oh, let's do 15. 15, when there is no log, the base of the log written, what is implied that the base is? 10. Perfect. So how do I cancel out the log here? Make the big base 10. So 10 to the power of log base 10 will cancel, so we're left with 3x plus 1 is equal to 10 squared, which is 100. What do we do next? Subtract the 1. So 3x is equal to 99. Divide by 3. So x is equal to 33. One more. We did one like this in the notes, but let's just do it for fun. I'll call it number 1. Let's say we had 1/2 log of x minus log of y minus 7 log of z. How do we condense this? What should we do first? Yes, but before we do that, let's move our exponents up top. Awesome. So x to the 1/2 power is like saying the square root of x. And then what's going to go on the bottom? Y times z to the 7th power. Perfect. That would be our answer. So anytime you have x to the 1/2 power, it's like saying the square root. So change it to be a square root. So x to the 1/2 power, change it to the square root of x. What if I had x to the 1/3 power? What would that change to? The cubed root of x. So whatever the denominator is, that would be our index. I'm going to do one more of expanding and condensing. So I'm going to call this number 2. Let's say we had log base 7 of 4 times x times y. What would we do here? Tomas, what do I do?
You're going to...
How would we expand? Maya? We have to add them. So what would I start with adding? Log base 7 of 4 plus log 7x plus log 7y. Awesome. That 4 is getting multiplied too. So even though it's not a variable, we still separate it with addition. So any numbers that we have 2, also if you're dividing or multiplying, you need to separate it and it gets its own log. All right, let's do 22. What should we do for 22? How would we solve? You could do that, or you could just take the log base 8 on both sides. So log base 8 of 8 cancels. X is equal to log base 8 of 1,000. Tomas, how do we put log base 8 of 1,000 in our calculator?
Log of 1,000 and log of 8.
Log of 1,000 divided by log of 8. Perfect. So we're going to put that in the calculator. So x is equal to 3.322. Any questions here? All right, let's look at 23. 23 we talked about yesterday. There was a few questions like this in the WebAssign. If you want to rewrite it, you can rewrite it so it looks like something we're used to. So we have 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 is equal to 0. So we just changed e to the power of x to be x. For now, we'll change it back. What should we do next to solve? Factor. How would we factor this?
2 times 3.
Awesome. Multiply the first times the last. We get -6. What are two factors of -6 that add to -5?
-6, positive 1.
-6 and positive 1. Perfect. So x minus 6 and x plus 1. What do we have to do next?
Divide by 2.
Don't forget to divide by 2. People are still forgetting. This is on every single test and quiz that we've had. We've had to factor by multiplying the first and last, and people are still forgetting to divide. So we have x minus 3 and 2x plus 1. Tomas, what do we do next?
Equal to 0.
Equal them to 0. So x is equal to 3 and x is equal to negative 1/2. Now, we put in x in our question. It used to be e to the power of x, so I'm going to change it back. E to the power of x is equal to 3 and e to the power of x is equal to negative 1/2. How do I get rid of the e now when I solve? Take the ln of both sides. So ln of e cancels, so x is equal to the ln of 3. So ln of 3 is 1.0986, or 1.099. We'll round to 3 decimal places. We can do the same thing with the other one. Take the ln of both sides. What do you get when you put the ln of negative 1/2 in your calculator? Remember, you can't take the ln of a negative number, so you'll get an error, so that is not a solution. So we only have one solution here. All right, let's do, yeah. All right, let's do 25. What should we do first for 25? Divide by 2. We need to get the e all by itself, so we're going to divide by 2. So e to the power of 0.5x is equal to 45 divided by 2, which is 22.5. Now, how do we get rid of the e? Take the ln. So 0.5x is equal to the ln of 22.5. So 3.1135. It keeps going, but we're going to leave it in the calculator. What would we do next? How do we get the x all by itself? Divide by 0.5. So x is equal to 6.227. Let's do 26. So anytime we have 2 logs on one side, we need to either combine it together or move it to the other side if the other side was just 0. But here we have a log on the other side, so we can't just move it because we'd be moving it back and forth. So let's combine these 2 together. How do I combine the 2 logs if I'm adding? What do we do? Multiply. So we have log base 7 of 3 times x is equal to log base 7 of 32. So now that I have a log is equal to a log, I can just cancel out the logs. And I would say 3x is equal to 32. Next, we just divide by 3 to solve. So x is equal to 32 divided by 3, which is 10.667. All right, let's do 28. What do we need to do first for 28? Condense them. How do we condense when we're subtracting? Divide. So we have log base 2 of x plus 5 over x minus 2 is equal to 3. Now, how do I get rid of the log? Make the big base 2. So 2 to the power of log base 2 cancels. So x plus 5 over x minus 2 is equal to 2 to the 3rd power, which would be 8. What would we do next? Awesome. We're going to multiply both sides by x minus 2. So it'll cancel out on the left side. So we have x plus 5 is equal to 8 times x minus 2. Then we can distribute the 8. So we get 8x minus 16. And then combine our like terms. So I'm going to add 16 to move it to the other side and subtract x. So 21 is equal to 7x. So x is equal to 3. Always just check your work, especially when you have logs. What can I not take the log of? a negative number. So if I plugged 3 in, 3 plus 5 is 8, so we're good there. If I plugged 3 in, 3 minus 2 is 1, so we're good there. So 3 works. Remember, you can't take the log of a negative number, so just quickly plug it back in to check your work just to make sure it's a solution. You don't have extraneous solutions. Let's look at 30. What should we do first for 30? Awesome. You need to subtract the 5 first before you can multiply. So we have 1/3 log base 2 of x is equal to 2. Now we can multiply by 3 to get rid of the 1/3. So log base 2 of x is equal to 2 times 3 is 6. Now how do we get rid of the log? Make the big base 2. So 2 to the power of log base 2 cancels. We're left with x is equal to 2 to the 6th power, which would be 64. All right, so the questions from WebAssign were 15, 16, and 17. So for 15, this question looks super similar to if it was x squared minus 4x plus 3, where we just changed e to the power of x to be x. So we're just going to change the way that it looks, because that way we know how to solve this one. We know how to solve when it's x squared minus 4x plus 3. How would we solve this? George, what do we do to solve this? The blue one. Factor. What are 2 factors of 3 that add to negative 4? Negative 3 and negative 1. So we'd have x minus 3 and x minus 1. So x is equal to 3 and x is equal to 1. Now we changed e to the power of x just to look like x. So I'm going to change it back. So you have e to the power of x and e to the power of x. So e to the power of x equals 3 and e to the power of x equals 1. Now if I had e to the power of x is equal to 3, what would we do to solve this? How do we get rid of the e?
Put ln.
Awesome. We take the ln of both sides. So it cancels out with e, so I have x is equal to the ln of 3. So we're just going to put that into our calculator. So the ln of 3 would be 1.0986. And then same thing with the other one. I have e to the power of x is equal to 1. So to get rid of the e, I take the ln of both sides. So x is equal to the ln of 1, and the ln of 1 is 0. So x is equal to 0. So these would be our 2 answers. Let's do another one. Let's take a look at 16. So 16, same thing. We have e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of x minus 12. So we're going to change this to be x squared minus 1x, or just x, minus 12 is equal to 0. So I just changed e to the power of x to be x. So now let's solve. What are 2 factors of negative 12 that add to negative 1?
4 and 3.
Negative 4 and 3. So x minus 4 and x plus 3 equals 0. So x is equal to 4 and x is equal to negative 3. Now I changed x to be I changed e to the power of x to be x. So I got to change it back. So we have e to the power of x is equal to 4 and e to the power of x is equal to negative 3. What do I do to get rid of the e? How would I solve from here? If we have e to the power of x is equal to 4. Take the ln of both sides, just like the last one. So ln of e cancels, and we're left with x is equal to the ln of 4. So the ln of 4 would be 1.3863. Now let's do the same thing with the other one. We take the ln of both sides, to cancel out the e. So we have x is equal to the ln of negative 3. When we put the ln of negative 3 in our calculator, what do you get? Error. So this is not a solution. So here we only have one solution. So sometimes when you're working these out, you may have two answers like we did in 15. You might only have one answer like we did in 16. Sometimes it might work out where you have no answers. They might both cancel. Because remember, we can't take the ln of a negative number. So that's why this one's not a solution. Put it in your calculator, you'll get an error. So we only have one answer here. All right, let's do one more. Let's look at 17. So this one's kind of similar, but a little bit different. Instead of it being like an x squared, notice how this one was e to the 2x with e to the 4x. So this would be like saying x to the 4th power, or we could just change e to the power, we could just change x to be e to the power of 2x. So I'm going to change it to be x squared plus 6x minus 16. So it's just a basic factoring one, but instead of changing it to be e to the power of x when we're done, I'm going to change it to be e to the power of 2x because we started with the exponent of 4x and 2x. So let's factor it. What are two factors of negative 16 that add to 6? 8 and 2. 8 and negative 2. So x plus 8 and x minus 2 equals 0. So x is equal to negative 8 and x is equal to 2. Now we changed x to be, or changed e to the power of 2x to be x. We got to change it back. So this is e to the power of 2x and e to the power of 2x. So just don't forget to change it back. Now, how do I get rid of the e when I'm solving here? If I have e to the power of 2x is equal to negative 8, we take the ln of both sides. Then we would divide by 2. But what's the ln of negative 8? Error. So this does not work. This is not a solution here. Sure. Just give me the other answer. Or if they both don't work, then it'd be no solution. So let's do the other one. How do I get rid of the e here? ln. Take the ln of both sides. So ln of e cancels. So we have 2x is equal to the ln of 2. So that would be 0.693147. It keeps going, but I'm just going to leave it in the calculator. What's the last step to find x? Divide by 2. So x is equal to, I just take that number, leave it in my calculator, and divide by 2. We get 0.34657. All right, so since we have exponents for this one, we want to get the x out of the exponent. Anybody know what we do here? What's the opposite of exponents? Logs. And what would our base of the log have to be? 7. The same thing with our base here. So log base 7 of both sides. So log base 7 of 7 cancels. So we're left with 8x is equal to log base 7 of 34. So we'd put this in the calculator. Remember, you can't change the base in your calculator, so you have to do the change of base formula. Which number would go on top? 34. So log of 34 over log of 7. So 8x is equal to 1.81219. It keeps going, but just leave it in your calculator and then divide by 8. So x is equal to 0.22652.